On Substance Church, how y'all doing?
Good morning. Hey, how y'all doing?
Absolutely. Welcome all those who are watching online at our other campuses. I believe today your marriage, your relationship gonna get fixed. All in one 30-minute message. Let's go. I'm completely joking.
That's awesome. My name's Irene Rollins. This is my husband, Jimmy, and we are 2 = 1. 2 equally crazy people.
Yes.
Who are equally committed.
Absolutely.
To a marriage made one. That's our marriage ministry.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You're so amazing. Sometimes.
Anyway, our dear friends, your pastors, asked us to come and share today, and we're just so honored. Can we give it up for Pastors Carolyn and Peter Haas, like the most amazing, genuine,
we love you guys so much.
People of integrity, we love you.
You gotta have smart people in your corner. You know what I mean? Just they're so much smarter than us. But we're so excited to be here. Number one, the weather is amazing. Last time I was here, it was like -0 degrees. And so this is absolutely amazing. Also, our family. Y'all listen, like we're gonna talk about marriage, not just marriage today. We're gonna talk about singles, we're gonna talk about family, in-law relationships. Come on, if you can't stand your in-laws, raise your hand. I'm joking, don't do that. Nice. Don't do that. But today we get to dive into some relationships, but let's talk about our family a little bit.
Yes, we have a 23-year-old daughter named Kayla, and she works full-time in church ministry at a church in Dallas. Our daughter Maya is 18, and she's the next one in from the right, and she goes to SCU, worship major. And our son over there, his name is Jaden, and he is 21. They are all single, and
the 2 girls are not available. They're gonna be nuns. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, we love our family, yeah.
Absolutely.
We're empty nesters.
We're empty nesting.
We are in a new season.
Yes, it's amazing.
You take liberties now.
Yeah, I do. I do. Well, we're absolutely, God has been absolutely blowing our minds just in our marriage ministry, 2 = 1, and we get the opportunity to share, our story and really help couples discover their marriage equation. And today it's just not about marriages, it's about singles, it's about relationships, it's about family relationships. And before we jump in, I want to talk to you about, if you take out your phones, there's a QR code coming up. We have a free 30-day marriage challenge that Irene and I are starting April 1st on your birthday. On your birthday, April Fool's Day, April 1st. And we have, I think, almost 4,000 couples from around the world that are already registered. So you guys are going to be able to do marriage and relationships. We have single people DMing us saying, hey, I'm single, but I really want to be married one day. Can I be a part? Absolutely, you can be a part. So if you don't get a chance to do the QR code, you can go on to our Instagram page or our website, 2equals1.com, and sign up. It is going to be amazing. 30 days of working on your relationship, working on your marriage. We like to say it this way. You are not allowed to complain about the marriage that you refuse to work on.
It's true.
We're not allowed to complain about the marriage that we refuse to work on. The wives are saying, amen. I've been telling him that. So you're doing it right now, right? But today we get to dive into this part 5 in this series. And if you're taking notes, we're going to talk about how to get a vision for your relationship. Like you need vision for your relationship. And I was thinking about this during worship. Like, what you see will be what you seek. What you see will be what you see. If you seek pain, or if you see pain and you see unforgiveness and you see fracture and you see resentment, you will seek that and it will find you. And it's absolutely amazing what vision can do for your relationship. So if you're taking notes, we're going to start out with Proverbs 29:18. And I forgot my glasses in West Palm, so I'm going to read from here. Come on.
Let me read.
You want to read it?
Yes, Proverbs 29:18.
Okay, there you go.
Because I don't need glasses yet.
Yeah, you have contacts, but that's a whole other thing.
That's different.
No, yeah,
you're old. Okay. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction.
Where there is no revelation, where there is no vision, people cast off restraint. I love this interpretation of the scripture or this context because the whole thing about casting off restraint, like if you have been in a relationship, if you've been married, if you have family relationship, it has required a lot of restraint. Come on. Like in bad seasons and you're like, man, I could just smack him, or like, man, I could just cuss them out. Like whatever it is, like it takes restraint. And without vision, without seeing your spouse, without seeing your family, without seeing your mother, without seeing your father, without seeing your children, as God sees them, you will call them outside of what God calls them. And so when we're talking about vision, we want to say, man, we need a vision not just for our marriage relationship. We need a vision for our friend relationships. We need a vision for our family relationships. So I remember Irene and I built a house in West Palm Beach almost a year and a half ago. And as we were building this house, every day I would pull out the plans, and I'm looking at the plans and the blueprints and realize that the builder is building according to the blueprints. But the blueprints gives the builder a vision of what the house is going to be, right? I couldn't see it, but he's got these blueprints. I want you to know that vision is like blueprints. And when you have a vision for your marriage, a vision for your relationship, it's like blueprints. So they finished the house, and I'll never forget, I was up there and just looking at it, saying, man, look what the Lord has done. And it started to rain. And when it was raining, literally water was just coming off the side of the house. And I realized something, that it didn't have any gutters.
No gutters.
This is a real story. Mm-hmm. Like all this time, all this effort, all this money, and someone forgot the gutters. And so I'm complaining to the builder, and he says, no, there were no gutters on the architectural plans. In other words, he's saying someone did not put this in the vision, and I only built according to what was in the fabric of the foundation of the vision. And when I started thinking about that, I wonder, in our relationships, do we have a vision for forgiveness? Do we have a vision for grace? Because if we don't, when the storms of life come, there's nothing to catch it and filter it outside of your heart or outside of your mind or outside of. And so when we start talking about vision, your marriage needs a vision. Come on, you need a vision for your in-laws. Come on, where y'all at? Like, I need a vision for my mother-in-law. She crazy. Like, you need a vision. Like, what is in the foundation of your relationship, the blueprints of what God wants this relationship to be?
And here's the deal. How many of you are married and know that when you get married, it's like tension, like all the things that drew you to this person somehow get on your nerves now? And you find yourself...
I get on your nerves?
Not at all. But, we find ourselves really kind of in this tension of, did I make the right choice? Did I choose the wrong person? They get on my nerves now. Like, what is it about this season? What we don't realize is that it was actually meant to be this way. Because when you get rubbed wrong by your spouse, typically, if we got honest, it's something in us that potentially needs to change. Our spouse is supposed to be our blueprint for growth.
Wow.
Our spouse is our blueprint for growth. So the things that rub me the wrong way with Jimmy actually are an opportunity for me to grow, an opportunity for me to add some gutters to my house. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's so good. That's so good. And when you get on my nerves this morning, I'm so glad we have gutters, right? Like, I was like, she just taking 3 hours to get ready. It's fine. It's all good. No, but when we start thinking about vision, on a serious note, a relationship with no vision is a relationship with division. A relationship, any relationship with no vision is a relationship with division. And here's the deal, like, if you have a marriage or a relationship without vision, you will have two people that see the same thing differently. If you have a relationship with no vision, you have two people that may see the same thing, but have a completely different way of getting there. Right? When you don't have a relationship that doesn't have vision, whether it's a in-law, whether it's a family relationship, you even disagree on what the destination is. And so when you get married, and maybe, you grew up, your spouse grew up one way and you grew up another way, and you get married and you want to put boundaries in because you're like, hey, your mama too much in our marriage. Come on, if that's you, raise your hand. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Right? But if you don't have these vision conversations of what is it going to be for us? Yeah. What kind of gutters are we putting in our relationship?
Yeah, like when Jimmy and I just met, I remember having to figure out, is it a boundary or is it control? And I was feeling more like it was control, but yet he wanted to protect me. This was the deal. He asked me if I could just tell him where I was going and when I would be home. Seems simple.
And she's like, don't control me. I'm like, I'm not the dude who did. Like, I'm actually trying to protect you.
But right? I had a whole different perspective of what a boundary was and what it meant in the relationship. I looked at it as control. You looked at it as protection and covering. And so that was real. We had to get to the bottom of what is the vision going to be for our marriage? What was covering and boundaries going to look like in our marriage? And we had to consider that we came from two different perspectives. What about singles? I'm coming for you right now.
Come on, come for me.
Okay, singles, symptoms of you not having vision for your relationships could look like this. You have no vision, so you just go keep dating anybody that asks you out. Maybe you are single and perhaps you say yes to everything and everybody. You're at every event. You say yes to everything at work. You are busy, 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 filling your time with busyness rather than having a vision for what rest looks like, connection looks like. The things you're going to need to have a vision for in your marriage, you got to have a vision for that for yourself.
That's so good.
First. Do you have a vision for yourself? Self-care. Do you care for yourself? Or are you so worried about others because you want a man or you want a woman so bad? Like being in a relationship does not define your value or your worth.
That's great. That's great. We have a 23-year-old daughter. The other one's too young to date. And some dude tried to date her, and I called him, and I DM'd him. It's like, she's not dating unless you want to come holler at me. Come on, somebody. And but our oldest daughter, I'm like, she's telling me her list, right? She's going down her list, like, and all of it's like sight-based. Well, he's got to have abs, and he's got to have, oh, thank God, like, mom wasn't looking for abs, because I've never had those, right? Like, this dad bod is doing it for her,
I love dad bod. You have muscles now.
I do have muscles, though. I've been working out, y'all. Right, you see that?
It's a tricep.
Don't start nothing you can't finish. So when we start, we're married. It's okay, guys. It's okay. We're like, oh, my God, I can't believe they said it in church. Like, okay, everyone was here. You're here as a product of that. Mm-hmm. All right? Okay, I just want to make sure. So I was telling my daughter, I was like, everything you're talking about is sight-based. And I was like, I get your list, but have you thought about what you refuse to live without? I'm not going to live without this. Like, I'm not gonna live without a man who has a prayer life.
Come on.
I'm not gonna live without a man who doesn't honor his mother. Like, these are the things I'm like, you're talking about what you want, but have you thought about, like, no, I'm not, like, if you're single, this is what vision does. It's not just what, draws you in and what you are attracted to, but what in that person is anointed.
Yeah.
What in that person can pray you through see nothing seasons. How do they worship? Women, let me tell you something. If he can't worship in church, he probably has intimacy issues.
Yeah.
It's real. And so when you're looking for a spouse and you're looking out there, single people, understand that it's not always compatibility that you're looking for, it's capacity.
Yeah.
Do they have a well big enough to hold my humanity? Right? And so these are some of the things that we're talking about getting a vision for. And Irene was talking about this earlier, like she saw covering, or control, I saw covering. I'll never forget, we're in the airport early on in our marriage, and she's just walking ahead of me. And I was just like, hey, can you slow down? Like, I'm overweight. Like, and honestly, she saw it as control, and I saw it as covering. And then I had to explain to her, you're pretty. A guy's gonna talk to you. If he talks to you in front of me, we're gonna lose our job because I'm gonna fight him. So really, this is not covering for you, it's covering for me. Come on, so walk beside me. Come on, right? But no, that's the kind of things that in marriages, you may say like in relationships that it's not a big deal. Those little things are the things that are causing division because there was no vision. How about these pillars? We feel like that there's 5 critical areas in every relationship that you need to have vision for. Just 5, because there's so many, but there's pillars. There's 5 pillars. The first one is faith, right? Like what are we going to do in our relationship with God? Like, we need to be equally yoked. And let me tell you something. You take this outside of marriage or relationships, intimate relationships, with family. Like, you could be asking, well, my dad never said, I'm sorry. Well, does he have a relationship with God? Because sometimes we're expecting people to give something away that they've never received.
Right.
And if you have unsaved people in your house or in your family or around you at work, and you're expecting a saved Christian response, it could be God asking you to sow it.
Come on. That's good, Jimmy. But hey, what about the times when you are saved and you're a Christian and you're a Christ follower and you love Jesus, but your response is not one of forgiveness and, kindness and gentleness and self-control and all that good stuff? One thing that I have actually appreciated about this season we're in is that we recognize that that's part of our humanity and our brokenness, and we have more grace for ourselves and each other, that we're not going to have this marriage thing perfect, even though we're teaching it, right? But you know what our growth point is right now? We apologize a lot quicker.
Yeah, me first. I do normally go first.
No, I do. I own it quick.
You're lying in church.
I own it quick because I'm like, it's so much better. You feel so much better when you're not holding on to that. Anyway,
absolutely. So faith, another vision that you need to come together with is finances, right? Like we need to have a vision for our finances. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the spender. I don't know if you can tell. Irene is the saver. There's always, that in every relationship. And so we had to get a vision. And I had to get on her page. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, we've got goals, because if you don't have a vision in your finances, you will allow, just your desires in a moment to govern your decisions in a moment, and then you end up forfeiting your financial future. So it's important that you have, and she's gonna play this back to me later, guys.
No. Here's the deal. Mutual submission. I know Pastors Peter and Carolyn teach this all the time. Mutual submission in a marriage. I don't have a problem submitting to a vision that we have set together. So it's like, I will submit to the budget. It's not Irene telling you not to spend money. It's the vision that you helped create.
Yeah, but I see your little face down there. Don't you spend that. I see her little face on the paper, y'all. Like, you better not do that. Like, talking to me.
I don't even, right?
Yeah.
It's saying vision. Vision for your budget.
No, it's saying... Get over yourself. Now, here's another one. Fractures. You need a vision for how you're going to fight.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
How are you going to handle disagreements?
Like, no one talks about this. You in a marriage, you're going to fight. It's just like, how do we have a good fight?
Yeah.
Right? And so be angry and sin not, which says I have permission to be angry. Just I can't sin in it. Right? So how are we going to recover? For us, we need space. I need space. If we have an issue, don't expect me to apologize right away. I just need a minute. That's what I'll say. Just give me some space. Back up off me, girl.
I've learned to give him that space, because if I don't give him that space, I'm going to get a response that's going to hurt my feelings. And then now we have to work through my hurt feelings and the problem that we were trying to solve in the first place. But what was your origin story of fighting, or not even using the word fighting, but resolving conflict?
Yeah.
Like, were you exposed to just cut and runners? People who just cut and run. You upset me, we're not doing really well, cut and run, off to the next person, like with no resolving to the best of your ability. Because I know people that are watching online. There are people that are in this room who, you didn't necessarily sign up to be single right now. You didn't sign up because your spouse died. You're a widow. There's been betrayal in your relationship, and there's divorce has divided what you had a vision for, and life isn't turning out the way you meant it. But here's the deal. How you get up from that.
So good.
Will determine, like, get a vision for how you're gonna get up from that. Because just because it didn't work out, or just because the person you love went home to be with Jesus, does not mean that God doesn't have something for you still. You will experience joy in the land of the living.
That's great. That's so good.
Joy in relationships.
I want to kiss you right now.
Oh.
Okay. The next one is fitness, like fitness. And, Irene's always, been into working out and stuff. Me not so much. And then it got serious when health started to be an issue because of the emotional issues and the trauma and the mental health issues that I had, that my medication was eating, right? And so I was turning to, don't interrupt me. I'm joking. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so mean. I was self-medicating. And so we had to get a vision for fitness, not because Irene didn't want a fat husband, right? Because she wanted her husband to be around long term. Come on. And what I did not know is that my issue with fried chicken, it brought up in her dad had health issues his entire, adult life. And she had to live on pins and needles because her father's health was always touch and go, whether he was going to live or die. And I did not know that I was a trigger for her, not because of my weight, but because of my inability to be attentive to my fitness. And so I think in your marriage, not do I look fat in this dress? Right. That's not the question. The question is like, hey, what are we gonna do to make sure we're around and have legacy in the area of fitness? Does that make sense? And so how do we move from division to vision? How do we have vision for all of our relationships? And this is no matter what kind of relationship. Number one, and Irene's gonna really dive into this one, is you have to clarify expectations. If you're taking notes, write down clarify expectations.
You want to clarify expectations as you're getting a vision, right, for yourself first, and that if you're single, and then if you're married already, then clarify expectations in your marriage. And it's time to just start diving into every time something comes up, every time you feel disappointed about something, you maybe feel angry. That's a great indication that an expectation was not met. So we listen to our emotions. Our emotions are there to trigger us to do something, right? So you feel anger and disappointment. Great, let's look at that. Did I have an expectation that wasn't met? Maybe it wasn't clear because I never said it out loud. Did you speak up about that expectation? Was it clearly communicated? Are you even conscious that you have an expectation? So my prayer for you today is that God would show you maybe where you weren't even aware you had an expectation, and that God would help you become conscious of where that expectation came from so that you can look at it, weigh it, reality test it, and see if it's even valid, if it's even something that can be fulfilled. So sometimes, and here's my point really, is once you become conscious of it and aware of it, is it realistic? Weigh that. Like Jimmy said earlier, is it even possible for the person to give you that need? The person may have a disability. The person may be sick. I know Jimmy and I've been going through some health challenges lately that came out of nowhere. And we're not used to mama being down.
No, it's been rough. It's been rough.
In our relationship, 24 years. And I noticed just some seasons of pouting, And
hold on, I feel attacked.
He was like, woe is me. And I'm like, I'm the one sick here, right? We were in a new season where he didn't realize he had an expectation, his emotional needs weren't being met. And I couldn't physically give him what he needed in that moment. I didn't wait for him to acknowledge that he was pouting, say, I'm sorry. I went to him and I said, guess what, babe? I'm sick right now. I just want you to know I'm not going to be available emotionally, and I'm really sorry about that.
And I was like, how long? How long are you gonna be sick? She's like, I can't. You know, I was like, don't yell at me. I have an expectation.
So if your spouse is your blueprint for growth, right? Your spouse is your blueprint for growth. I didn't have to tell him, you have unrealistic expectations of me. I'm sick. Don't you see? What I did was I went to him and said, I'm so sorry that I can't give you this right now in this season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he became aware all on his own with the Holy Spirit, not me being a part of that conversation. And he came back and he said, you know what? I can't expect certain things out of you right now. And we had a conversation where we agreed on what our expectations of each other would be in the next season while I was trying to figure out my health situation.
It's great.
So now there are less fights because we agreed. You know?
We agree, yeah. But she's better now, so no more pouting.
You've been actually really amazing. I really appreciate it.
Tell me more.
You have been so caring and empathetic. And when you do that, what I feel is seen. I feel loved.
All right.
Yeah, and it makes me just want to serve you in the way that you need to be served.
Can you act on those feelings?
Okay, physical touch.
There we go. So number one, for moving from division to vision is clarify expectations. Number two is, and this one is like, it's called clear the cache. Now, if you are in computers at all, like if you understand sometimes your computer is slower, right? Or maybe you get the, if you got an Apple, I call it the circle of death.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you see that, it's like, what is going on? Oftentimes, it's not a hardware issue. Oftentimes, you just have to clear the cache. You have to go and erase all of the short-term memory that is causing things to slow, to not process quickly. And what we have discovered in our relationship, what I've discovered in my relationship with my parents, even as a 50-year-old man and my dad is 78, is we have to make sure that we clear the short-term memory so it doesn't slow down processing of being healthy. Right? And so Control, Alt, Delete. Come on, somebody. Like, you have to be able to lose control, right? You have to be able to alter behavior, right? And then you have to be able to delete the resentment from that season. Control, Alt, Delete. And so when you start feeling something and you need to clear the cache in your marriage, somebody needs to just say Control, Alt, Delete. Like Irene and I honestly have trigger words in the good thing that if we got an attitude or if we feel like something is coming up, we've decided that these are the words, the safe words that we're gonna have that no one can get offended. So, if I'm telling too many jokes, she'll just say, ouch, which is saying, hey, you're going a little too far. So I hear ouch a lot. Right? But if I feel resentment or if I feel something from another season or if I feel like, our marriage went through for 15 years and sometimes those seasons creep back in, I can just say, hey, Control, Alt, Delete. And she knows what that means. That means take control of your thought, right? Alter the behavior, right? I don't want to see that attitude, And then delete, like, please erase that file. I'm not that person anymore. We're not in that season anymore. Yeah. And so many of us learn how to keep score, and because we don't want to clear the cache, and when you keep score, what you're saying is, I am expecting for you to do it again. Not I'm expecting a different behavior, and then you begin to portray on the person what you don't even want.
Projecting on that.
You project. And so we need to clear the cache. Number three, if you're going to move from division to vision, is you have to compartmentalize contention. I'm going to stay here for a second. I don't know about you all, but in every relationship that I have for years, if there was one bad disagreement, if there was one bad disappointment, if there was one, it didn't have to be bad, it wrecked the whole relationship. Right? And I am the one in our marriage, like Irene can get over something. Like, I'm like, I don't even like her no more. Like, shoot, like I don't even want to sleep next to you. Like, come on. Like, it is so little. And what happens is if we don't compartmentalize that, it can rob every great area in your relationship. And so, like, for us, we have fun. Like, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna dance, we're gonna make fun. Like, our family chat is, like, with our kids, it's fun. And what happens is I'll notice at times one of my kids are not in the family chat. Like, what's going on? They got frustrated at one little area, and now you've allowed that frustration to rob our fun. Let me tell you some of our relationships. Most of our relationships are empty of fun because we've allowed fracture, one little area, one little disappointment, one little thing to spread in every area of our relationship. Your marriage ain't bad. You just, she was late. And you're like, man, you're going to be this mad at me because I was 5 minutes late to the car and now I can do nothing, right? Like, are we 13 years old?
Right.
Like, that's what I have to ask myself sometimes. Are you 10? Right? We have to compartmentalize contention. Keep it in one space. Bring it back around later. Don't allow one bad day to rob the entire week of your relationship. Right. That's why with us that we'll teach in the 30-day challenge is how to have a 30-minute hard conversation one day a week. How do we do that? And then what we do is we've isolated all of our frustration to 30 minutes, one day a week. Now we need to tell you how to have that hard conversation. Right. So compartmentalize contention.
Yeah, and that actually leads well into number 4, which is commit to the process. We've got to commit to a process of healing, restoration. It took so many years of living and being in dysfunction to be where you are today. Dysfunctional, right? We all come from dysfunctional
How many of y'all come from dysfunctional families? Let me see your hand.
It's all of us.
If
Welcome.
you don't have your hand up, you're the one in the family that's dysfunctional.
But here's the deal. Behind every process comes a determination, right? How determined are you to break that dysfunction? To be the one that says, you know what, it stops with me. Codependency stops with me. See, addiction in my family, it stops with me because I'm 8 years, 3 days, and 3 months and 20 days sober today from alcohol. And we are breaking the shame off of our family, off of generations. We are talking about addiction. My kids have been a part of my healing process. They have been a part of our marriage healing. We have done this together. The family has to heal together. It's all a part of the process. So if you want this dysfunction to just shed off of you and to create new normals, which is number 5.
That's mine. I'm supposed to do that one.
Well, before you go into that, before you go into creating new normals, this whole process is just simply this. It's a series of small decisions that are going to make big impact.
So good.
Series of small decisions. It's not everything being perfect. It's about progress over perfection. So just commit to the next best thing for you to do for yourself and your relationship today.
I think one of the things that we like to say in this point is forgiveness is a decision, reconciliation is a process. And many times people don't make the decision because they're so worried about the process. Yep. And I just want to tell you, it just starts with the decision. Like I said earlier, it's impossible for an unsaved loved one to give you something that they've never received. They can't give you forgiveness because they've never received it from God. And so it could be, how do I win them to Christ, right? I have to be more committed to their heart than my hurt.
That's good.
I have to be more committed to their heart than my hurt. And as Irene said, the last thing to move from division to vision is create a new normal. I'm telling you right now, we are 8 years, free from the worst season of our marriage. And this trip is a new normal. We used to travel and fight and not talk. But it was really cool. We walked into the hotel yesterday and we just laughed and we just said, isn't this amazing what we get to do? Think about all of the times when we would come here and not even talk to each other. And all we're doing is creating new normals. And what we want to encourage you to do is create new normals. And for us, it looked like this. When Irene got back from rehab and I got finally focused on my health and my emotional health and my mental health, we in our house, we played some worship music. And I'll never forget, we took some it wasn't like special oil, some extra virgin olive oil. Come on, somebody. And all the places that we used to fight, we went and prayed over those places and anointed those places with oil. And what we were doing is creating a new normal. Yeah. And I want to just encourage you in any relationship today, whether it's your married relationship, decide that you're going to create a new normal. A new normal might be today to text that parent, that loved one, that if you have adult children, and say, hey, I just want you to know I love you. I know we got some stuff that we need to talk about, but never forget how much I love you. It's just a new normal. And sometimes if that's not your everyday thing, put it in your calendar. Calendar it. I like to say this, practice doesn't make things perfect. It makes things permanent. And so just practice forgiveness, practice affirmation, practice, calling someone. And I'm telling you right now that Irene and I cannot believe what God has done in our relationship, not just in our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our in-laws, with our families, our relationship with our friends. We're just better friends, right? Because we have new normals. One of those new normals was just saying, hey guys, sorry that we were like jacked up during that season. Yeah. I remember that we had that conversation with Peter and Carolyn, like, because they've been friends with us when we were super dysfunctional. And when we came back and said, hey guys, we know it was kind of hard to love us during that season. Yeah. Thanks for hanging in there with us. What we're doing is creating a new normal. And I just want to pray for you. We just want to pray over you. I mean, will you pray over us that we would move from division to vision and have a vision for our relationships? Without a vision, people cast off restraint. It's time to get restrained to the things that God has called us to, and that's people.
God, help us all to create new normals in our lives where forgiveness goes first, where we own our part in the dysfunction. God, help us as we are now in the family of God. Help us to leave behind childish things, to leave behind dysfunctional ways from our families of origin. And as we come into this new family of God, God, show us through your word how and to do this relationship thing, how to do this whole new normal way of living in a healthy way that will bring you glory at the end of the day. So God, cover our relationships. Help us get a vision of what the future will look like, whether we're single or married. Bless us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Substance Church, we love you. Thank you for letting us share.